Welcome back to Ring of Fire. I'm Mike Papantonio. The time is up for Americans to submit their comments to the State Department on the Keystone XL pipeline. And soon we'll have a decision from the White House on whether or not this pipeline is going to be constructed. Joining me now to talk about the disasters of the Keystone XL pipeline is Farron Cousins, the executive editor of Trial Lawyer magazine. Farron, it looks like there have been more lies packed into selling the Keystone pipeline than just about anything I've seen in the recent 10 years. I mean, it has just been an all-out lie fest about what this pipeline is supposed to do for America. What's your take on it?
Well, the oil industry and the Republicans have been selling Keystone to us for about 2.5 years now, and they want us to believe that it's going to fix every single problem that America faces. The very first talking point that they threw out was mid-2011 when they told us that the Keystone pipeline was going to bring 20,000 jobs into America. And the timing of this is important because that was at a time when the hot button issue was jobs. Republicans were angry with Obama, saying that he wasn't doing enough to create jobs, and so they end up coming up with this $20,000 figure, or 20,000 job figure. But the truth is, a couple weeks later, TransCanada came out and said, well, maybe it's not 20,000, maybe it's only 6,000. And then we find out recently from the State Department that it would only create 35 permanent jobs in America. I mean, you get that many jobs opening up a car dealership. So this
this is an all-out push, though, isn't it, Farron? I mean, the Republicans probably feel like they're in striking distance because they have a president that caves into virtually everything they ask for. You have Democrats that are so tied into the oil industry that they want this to happen. But the way this is taking place, we're missing, I mean, the things we're missing are obvious. First of all, the jobs lie. It was a total lie. You realize at one point there were numbers as high as 250,000 jobs that were supposed to be created by this. They actually testified that in front of the Senate, in front of Senate hearings. They fed that message to the media, and the dysfunctional corporate media actually sold that idea. The other thing, though, was that this was going to reduce our cost of fuel in the United States. Talk about that lie. It was a huge one, wasn't it?
Well, that was one of their best ones. They said, look, we're going to bring in all this tar sands oil. It's coming into America. This is our oil. But nobody stopped to think why we're running this pipeline directly underneath Midwest oil refineries and taking it down to the Gulf Coast.
Now, your point is they're going through refineries that we already have. They're existing in the Midwest, they're operating in the Midwest, but they want to take it to the Gulf Coast. For what reason other than export?
Well, that's the reason. They're taking it to the Gulf Coast because we've got access to ships and they're going to send it out. Now, oil in the Midwest refineries typically stays in America, and they're going directly past those to the Gulf Coast so they can ship it out. And what's going to happen then, according to all the reports available on this, is that every time we export oil from the United States, it raises our gasoline prices anywhere between 8 and 12 cents per gallon. And they're going to be either sending this to emerging markets in China or India, or doing the typical Koch brothers scheme where they load it up into the tankers, take it offshore, wait for prices to go up, and then they're going to sell it back to Americans.
But then you also have that element we talked about in the last show: is America too stupid for democracy? And the question is, when you ask Americans, gee, if we drill for oil here, if we produce oil here in the United States, isn't it going to lower the cost of oil? And just the opposite is true, because those people who do all that, they want to get as much as they can, so they send it to Asia, Europe, wherever they can make the most money. Has nothing to do with our prices here in the United States, does it?
Well, that's right. And that's, you know, oil is not like any other good created. Oil is not sold on a local domestic market. Oil is sold nationally. Anything we pull out of the ground in America is going to go to OPEC, get priced by OPEC, and then sold to the highest bidder. If we're not the highest bidder, we don't keep our oil. Right now, we are a net oil exporter for our domestic reserves, and we're importing oil from other places. So yes, we're pumping oil out of the ground right now at an unprecedented rate. I think domestic drilling has reached a 30-year high at this point in this country.
Farron, in about a minute and a half, tell us what a huge environmental impact this has in the United States for the area that's crossing.
Well, the most important part of the Keystone Pipeline is that it crosses a portion of the Ogallala water aquifer, which provides water for 25% of our nation's crops. And TransCanada has already told us that there's going to be very little to no oversight on this pipeline at all, and that their detection system cannot detect a pinhole leak in the system capable of spewing out 700,000 gallons of oil a day. So we're looking at potentially destroying the largest water aquifer in North America just so TransCanada can ship their oil through the United States over to China and India.
And we have no reason to believe they're any more responsible than BP, who, of course, completely destroyed the entire Gulf Coast, still destroyed to this day, or Chevron that destroyed the Amazon. Just history after history tells us that the way that we can tell that the oil industry lobbyists are lying to us is just watch their lips. When they're moving,
Absolutely.
We probably are involved with a huge lie. No question, if things go wrong in that water aquifer, it's not reversible. In about 15 seconds, tell me how bad that is.
Well, it's essentially going to destroy 25% of our nation's crops. It's going to make water undrinkable for about 12 states in this country. But, you know, the Keystone 1 pipeline has experienced one oil leak per month in its operation. And we have no reason to believe that this Keystone XL is going to be any different.
Farron Cousins, thanks for joining me.
Thank you.